Wow, what a crazy last few days it's been in the NBA. Let me fill you guys in and give you some of my thoughts on the last week or so in the NBA in semi-chronological order. Starting with the trades, I'm so late on it, but I haven't done a video on it, so let's start with the Alex Caruso-Josh Giddey trade. You've definitely already watched videos on this, so I will keep it quick. Alex Caruso is obviously a great fit at the shooting guard position for Oklahoma City, and they have a devastating defensive lineup now in Shea, Caruso, Dort, J-Dub, and Chet. Additionally, with Caruso's improved shooting last year, you can realistically say every player in their starting lineup can shoot and defend at an above average level. Caruso has never played more than 28 minutes per game in a season, but they have plenty of guard minutes behind him still with Isaiah Joe, Cason Wallace, etc. The fact that they got Alex Caruso without trading a single first-round pick is a masterclass by Sam Presti. For the Bulls, trading Alex Caruso was the right move. I would have done it during the season, especially since several teams reportedly offered lottery picks in this year's draft, but at least they're finally committing to the rebuild, I hope. I think that we also saw that in their draft selection as well. They're going to have to be the ones to pay Josh Giddey after next season, but if they unload the Zach LaVine and DeMar DeRozan contracts, I guess they have the funds to do so, and they're taking a risk on a high upside player in Josh Giddey. Now for the big 3-team deal that happened 2 nights ago. First, the Knicks traded Bojan Bogdanovic, 4 unprotected firsts, a protected first, and a pick swap to the Nets for Mikal Bridges. The Knicks got their guy, the final piece in the Villanova Infinity Gauntlet. They are legitimately going to compete for a championship next year using the power of friendship. They had to pay a significant amount of draft capital, but it's not that bad. Their 2025 and Milwaukee's 2025 picks are fine to give, since they have such a full, expensive roster anyway. The 2028 swap should mean nothing, because the Knicks should still be better than the Nets. So really, it's the 2027, 2029, and 2031 unprotected picks that you get a little bit anxious about. After the Mikal Bridges trade, and the news that OG Anunoby would be returning to the Knicks on a 5-year, $212 million deal, the Knicks were tied for the second best odds to win the NBA championship next year. Mikal and Julius Randle are really going to be the X factors next season, in my opinion, because one of them is going to have to elevate themselves to a true second star next to Brunson, or the jokes about the Knicks just being a team of all-star role players is going to hold true. The Knicks have positioned themselves really well for the next 2 years. They have Jalen Brunson and Mikal Bridges locked in on their current, relatively cheap contracts. Julius Randle has 1 more year guaranteed than a player option. When all those guys expire and demand near max contracts in 2 years, they're probably going to have to break up this team in one way or another. So 2 years is their window, and credit to Leon Rose and the Knicks front office because it seems that they're willing to pay for it. And as a Knicks fan, I gotta say credit to the Brooklyn Nets for making another great move after squeezing a ton of firsts from the Knicks too. They were able to get their own 2025 and 2026 picks back using some Phoenix picks and some swaps that they had from the KD trade, so they can officially start their rebuild with a treasure trove of picks that now includes their own. So congratulations to the Brooklyn Nets. You guys are going to be bad for a few years. Okay, that took longer than expected, but let's get into the NBA draft, which also had no shortage of surprises. Number 1, I guess at least for the last few days, has been pretty set, that being Zachary Risa-Shea to the Atlanta Hawks. And as all the draft commentators were saying all night, the French Revolution has begun. The Hawks unexpectedly jumped to number 1 this offseason, and they were expected to draft Alex Sarr until a few weeks ago, and he refused working out with the Hawks, so Zachary Risa-Shea became the obvious number 1 option for them, although there were a few rumors about Donovan Clingan going number 1 as well. He's a young, skinny, but versatile wing they are hoping can develop to a really good 3-and-D guy for your team. And keeping the French thing going, like I said, Alex Sarr was the number 2 overall pick to the Washington Wizards. The Wizards made some other moves that we're going to talk about later, but their first, or I guess second move of the day after trading Deni Avdija was having Alex Sarr fall into their laps. This is what the Wizards wanted, and this is what Alex Sarr wanted, so it ended up working out. Alex Sarr needs to get a little bit more consistent with the 3, but you cannot teach 7-foot size, wing-like athleticism, and elite defensive instincts like Alex Sarr has. With the Wizards trading Denny Avila, Sarr is undoubtedly the face of this Wizards franchise for the foreseeable future. The 18-year-old will have plenty of opportunities to make mistakes and learn from them on this terrible Wizards team. And at number 3 to the Houston Rockets, we have White Boy Summer himself, Reed Sheppard. He's one of, I think, the most intriguing prospects in this whole draft. He was an amazing shooter, shooting 52% from 3 on 4.5 attempts as a freshman. He has an insane vertical, 42-inch vertical measured at the combine. He showed a bit of everything on offense, even some passing ability, with 4.5 assists per game as the point guard. He's probably more of a swingman, like a off-guard kind of role in the NBA instead of a true point guard, but his offensive capabilities seem like the sky is the limit, right? The big question mark with him is his defensive abilities. He can get in some passing lanes. He averaged 2.5 steals per game in college, but he's very weak, pretty scrawny, and does not seem to have great defensive instincts, so that's something that he's going to have to work on. At number 4, the San Antonio Spurs made their first and turns out only first-round pick of the day by selecting Stephon Castle. He's definitely not the greatest 4th overall pick that we've ever seen, but he is a multi-positional defender. He's 6'6", so is he a point guard, a shooting guard, a small forward at the NBA level? That remains to be seen. The big thing with him is, can he have a consistent 3-point shot? Because more so than the defenders, Wembanyama needs shooters around him, so he's going to need to make his shots if he's going to stay on the floor. To number 5, we have Ron Holland on the Detroit Pistons. Unlike many other media outlets, I love this pick. This guy was the number 1 prospect, I believe, going into this year, and despite having some ups and downs, had a great season on the G League Ignite, averaging 18.5 points per game at just 18 years old. Again, like Stephon Castle, he has all the tools to be a great defender, but his long-term outlook depends on if he can make his shots. At number 6, the French Revolution continues with Tijan Salon jumping up quite a few spots from his expected spot to number 6. He was a 17 and 18-year-old playing against grown men in France. While his numbers don't fly off the page, he actually does have some history of being a good 3-point shooter. Probably not the pick I would have gone with if I was Charlotte, but I guess they need a power forward and his stretchability could be a nice addition to the team. And at number 7, finally the Trailblazers did not overthink this one. They drafted the 7'2" national champion with a 7'7" wingspan, the guy who was a machine blocking shots in the paint. He's fairly mobile for his size too, and could be a great weapon against some of the elite bigs in this league. This move seems like Ayton's probably going to be gone in a season or two, but I don't think any Blazers fan is really upset about that. Klingon had some serious buzz to go number 1, and he falls all the way down to 7, so if you're a Blazers fan, you've got to be stoked about that. Pick number 8 was supposed to belong to the San Antonio Spurs, but the Minnesota Timberwolves made a big swing in getting that 8th overall pick and selecting Rob Dillingham. They gave up so many picks on the Rudy Gobert trade, but they're giving up picks even further in the future to trade up. They traded a 2031 unprotected first and a top 1 protected pick swap in 2030. For the Timberwolves, I guess this fulfills some needs. Mike Conley's not going to last as the point guard forever next to Anthony Edwards, and the Timberwolves could use a little bit more of an offensive punch. Obviously Anthony Edwards is great, but they didn't have a lot of other creators on this team last year. Rob Dillingham is a truly gifted scorer that should be able to come off the bench and provide some stuff for them next season, but the problem is he's a truly terrible defender. This Timberwolves team are just going more all in after their Western Conference Finals berth last year, but their risk profile just keeps getting larger too, so I'm excited to see how this works out for them. At number 9, the Memphis Grizzlies go, I think, a route that very few people expected, and selected Zach Edey in the top 10. I guess the fit here makes sense. The Grizz have been looking for a long-term option at the 5, and they get someone who can immediately help and maybe even start for this team. The Grizzlies have an interesting Twin Towers thing going on too with Triple J and Edey now, and Edey is also a great screen setter, so maybe that can open things up for Ja Morant. Still, this feels like a reach. And at number 10, rounding out the top 10, Cody Williams going to the Utah Jazz. I guess if Jalen Williams is J-Dub, is Cody Williams C-Dub? Honestly, Cody Williams does play like J-Dub too, and maybe that's why the Jazz picked him here after seeing the success of J-Dub on the Thunder. He's a versatile wing, who can shoot, and is pretty mobile, but he was injured for most of his freshman season at Colorado, so he still is a bit of an unknown. At number 11, the Chicago Bulls got a great pickup in Modest Buzelis. I really like this kid after seeing his interview where he thanked his hometown Chicago team for picking him and told the organization he's ready to get down to work. He's a 6'9" forward who can score and facilitate off the dribble pretty well for a wing and has shown signs of great defensive abilities. He's still raw and has struggled with his shot for most of his career except for one hot streak he had his senior year of high school, but the tools are there for him and he can be the leader of a Chicago rebuild that they're finally undergoing. And number 12 to the OKC Thunder was Nikola Topic. Knowing the Oklahoma City Thunder, Nikola Topic is going to hit the highest levels of his potential for them. I don't think he's going to play next season because of his ACL injury, but the Thunder really don't need him to. This is a perfect situation for Topic, who before his injury had top 5 pick buzz because of his amazing playmaking and facilitating abilities. The second to the last pick of the lottery was Devin Carter to the Sacramento Kings. The Kings are just kind of hoping Devin Carter is what they thought Davion Mitchell would be. Son of longtime NBA player Anthony Carter, Carter out of Providence is a scrappy defender that loves to hustle and compete. For a Sacramento team that's trying to make the playoffs and needs defense, this was probably the perfect pick for them. And rounding out the lottery was Bub Carrington going to the Washington Wizards at pick 14. I think the Wizards had a great draft. I still don't know if I love them trading away Denny Avila to get this pick 14, but they used it to select Bub Carrington, who's a tall, smart point guard who kind of gives me some Sean Livingston vibes, although I bet the Wizards are hoping he can develop his three-point shot a little bit more than Sean Livingston ever did, and there are some signs that he can develop that three-point shot. But getting Alex Sarr and Bub Carrington in the lottery of this draft, you've got to be happy as a Wizards fan. And that wraps up the lottery. Because this video is already probably really long, I'm just going to hit on some highlights from the rest of the first round. I really like Khalil Ware at 15. He's still raw, but he provides some nice complements and parallels behind Bam Adebayo. He's a good rim protector like Bam, but he can also stretch the floor. TikTok boy Jared McCain went 16 to the 76ers, and with them possibly losing Kyle Lowry and Cam Payne this offseason, they could use a guard to provide some offense off the bench right now, so Jared McCain's a good pick. But the Lakers might have gotten the steal of the draft for what they needed, picking up Dalton Knecht at pick 17. Yeah, he's old, boo-hoo, but he was an absolutely elite shot maker from all 3 levels at Tennessee last season. The Lakers are in win-now mode in LeBron's twilight years, and they got someone who can help immediately. At pick number 21, the New Orleans Pelicans drafted Yves Missy, who I think's a great fit with the rest of their young assets. Could he be the long-term 5 next to Zion with Jonas Valanciunas probably leaving? Who knows, but the hope is he can at least contribute as a backup right away for the playoff hopeful Pelicans. The Denver Nuggets also traded up from pick 28 to pick 22 to get Deron Holmes, a guy who I really liked throughout the draft process. The Nuggets have struggled getting a consistent backup 5 to Nikola Jokic throughout his entire career in Denver, so the Nuggets pounced on this opportunity, and it seems like a good move because they didn't have to give up too much to do so. The New York Knicks had picks 24 and 25. They traded down from 24 to 26 to get the 51st pick, but then ended up trading that pick for 5 future seconds anyway. In the middle of that though, they also drafted Pacome Dadier with the 25th pick. The pick itself is definitely one that looks into the future, as he's still a lanky 18-year-old that might not even come over to the NBA next season. He hasn't done too much in his professional career, but he has a 3-point stroke, and he is still a blank canvas, as they say. All those other moves were a money maneuver by the Knicks to try to sneak under the second apron and re-sign Isaiah Hartenstein, so part of their draft grade hinges on if they can re-sign him. The Timberwolves continued their good draft, picking up Terrence Shannon at number 27. They went for him and Rob Dillingham, high-profile upside guys. Terrence Shannon was an elite scorer last year, and if he can keep this up in a more limited role, he could definitely make an impact for the Wolves next season too. I liked the Suns getting Ryan Dunn at pick 28. He's a great defender, which is something Phoenix could definitely use, but he also needs to develop his shot a little bit more. And finally, I can't believe Isaiah Collier dropped to pick 29 after being a potential lottery selection. I wanted the Knicks to get him so badly at pick 25, but we passed on him, and I figure as a Knicks fan it's probably going to end us biting us in the butt. He's a strong, crafty guard that will also make some mistakes on the Jazz, but I think he's got a lot of potential. But those are pretty much my thoughts from the last week of the NBA and the first round of the NBA draft. Let me know what you guys think Kyle Filipowski, Bronny James, and some of the other talented players still on the board go in round 2 tonight. This is the Sports Ball Network, signing off. Peace.